Older games kind of rock. I was looking back at my backlogged list of games I've beaten this year, and most are older titles. And I want to talk about some of the things I've learned from focusing on older games this year. I'm not against new releases. I played through Echoes of Wisdom and Shadow of the Erdtree at launch, and both were amazing. And I would not change anything about it. Like, I'm super happy I picked those up. But looking at the rest of the list, Half-Life 2, Episode 1, almost done with Episode 2. I played through Cyberpunk 2077 again. I beat Fallout 4 and New Vegas. Finally finished Elden Ring, going into that Erdtree playthrough. Super Mario Wonder, and a few others like Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask. They're all games that have released years ago. And it's not like I went into this year saying I'm going to focus on it, but you can save a ton of money by focusing on older games. And what sparked the idea for the video is I just picked up Armored Core 6. I definitely have been interested in this game. The very first PlayStation 2 title that I remember playing was Armored Core 2, I think. And back then I had no idea it was From, or that, FromSoft was going to be this behemoth developer who made some of my favorite games ever down the road. But at $60, I just never felt that motivated to pick it up. So it's been sitting on my wish list for a long time. And the most recent sale, where it's like 50% off, it finally was the point where I was like, sure, I can throw 30 or $35 at this. That makes a ton of sense. And it's a lot of fun. And I know it's not an objective way to view a game critically, but there is something really nice about picking something up at a discount. All of a sudden, a game, you can see it very differently from a value proposition standpoint if it is less expensive. Think about like the Half-Life games. You can get Half-Life 2 and the episodes on a Steam sale for $5? They're always super cheap. And those are insanely good games. And it feels like you're breaking the system when you get something like that, something that good for that much money, like the cost of a cup of coffee. It really puts things in perspective. I don't know if you feel the same way, but let me know down below if you view a game differently based on how much you were able to get it for. But with sales on platforms like Steam and GOG and even the PlayStation and Xbox store, you really get seasonal deals that are great as long as you're a little bit disciplined and can wait on a few games, and then also a little bit diligent, keeping track of a wish list and knowing what games you want. Save up for that, winter Steam sale. Start setting up that wish list now, and you can get 5 or 6 games that you really want instead of maybe just the one that is the new release. I will say, this year I have a big exception to that is important. Back when Helldivers 2 came out, an awesome Halo YouTuber, Kevin Kulaks, he convinced me to pick the game up. And I played it with him and a good Destiny friend, Aviators, a bunch. And I loved getting to play Helldivers 2 those first 2 months. The hype was unreal. The community was like discovering the game and learning that, the devs, they're actually telling the enemies where to go, what systems to invade. And it felt like this large scale experience that was so cool. I knew for me, I was probably buying a flash in the pan style game. Something that I would only play with friends, and it would probably have a very short shelf life. And that's kind of the truth. It's a great game, but I'm not really going to go back and play it much more. But I loved getting to experience it at that time. And I know we're right around the corner from the new Call of Duty release. I think back to the Halo releases and just how much fun it was to discover the game with the community. COD could be the same way. The first 8 weeks of a new COD game, before everybody has figured out the broken builds and the meta weapons and all that stuff, it's really, really fun to be a part of that discovery process, that new freshness, learning the new maps and whatnot. So it's totally cool to pick up new stuff. I'm not anti-new whatsoever. But on the old game side, at least on the single player portion, you get the benefit of patches and mod support. I played through Fallout 4 this year and New Vegas, and both of those games I modified heavily. For Fallout 4, tons of visual mods. Only real gameplay tweaks I did were fixes and light changes, nothing that really overhauled the experience from a gameplay point, but it looked beautiful. It felt like a modern game, and that really changed my viewpoint on it. I'd played a bit of Fallout 4 when it released, and it didn't click with me. On the PC side, that that is a big advantage from playing something older. The communities can build entirely new games. I mean, the Fallout 4 London mod is supposed to be one of the best single-player mods of all time. Super cool. And then like with Cyberpunk, played it at release and then played through it again this year, and I wish the first experience I had with that game was the 2.0 update. The state that the game is in now, I wish that was my first experience with it because it's so much better. They overhauled all of the skill trees, changed so many of the sub-economies within the game, and made it something so much closer to what people's expectations were. So in this era where we have so many unfinished and unreleased games, if you're willing to wait, you don't have to beta test stuff. You can get the best experience, and typically at a much less expensive price. Until developers start proving themselves, really trustworthy when it comes to new releases, I'm typically holding back. I am interested in like the new Final Fantasy game, 16, and it just came to PC. But as per usual with Square releases of like FF games on PC, it's got lots of performance issues and hitches. And now you have to wait for either the community to resolve it or Square to go back and fix it. And typically they don't have a great track record of that. So again, another point in just waiting for a game, doing your research and doing your homework before picking it up. And sort of the final thing is no FOMO, no pressure. Sometimes with new releases, especially if you've already like mentally committed to like, oh, that trailer looked cool, I'm getting that game at launch, you can rush through them and just not really experience them in the way that you want to, especially if there's another new release coming up really closely behind it. With friends, sometimes like if everybody picked up the game and they're playing through it together or it's got a co-op element, who cares? I mean, doing anything with friends is so much fun. You could play through a horrible game with good friends and it can be a really great time. But if it's like just a pure single player experience, there's something nice about not having to keep up with all of the new releases. You don't have to rush. You can just sit back, explore every nook and cranny. Maybe you want to go achievement hunting or get 100% in the game, whatever it may be. That's a little bit easier to do with older titles. I think about it like movies. Sometimes you see a bunch of trailers and you go, I need to see that. Oh, and I want to see that movie. And I want to see that. And before you know it, you can't go hit all of those movies in the theater. Like, it's way too much money or it's too much time. But then you watch it on home release, like 6 or 9 months later when it hits streaming or something like that. And you're really stoked you waited to see it. You didn't feel pressured into doing so. I think it's kind of similar with games. Sometimes you need to stew, read reviews, look at a few things, or you want to go in blind. Doesn't matter. I just have enjoyed this year a ton. I really like playing older games in 2024. It's just cheaper. They're usually improved in some way. You can mod them, and there's no pressure to keep up with the latest trends. And sometimes it's great to just go back for nostalgia's sake. Nothing against new releases. I just feel like this year and now for the next little bit, we're in a period of time where we're not going to be getting a bunch of stuff. Maybe when Switch 2 gets announced, but it does feel like we've got now a little bit of a break until Stalker 2. That's looking awesome. Anyway, thanks for watching. Have a great rest of your day, and I will see you again very soon.